If your faith feels stuck right now, I want to say this clearly. It's probably not because you're lazy or distracted or undisciplined. And it's not because you don't love God. In fact, many of the women that I work with are doing more than ever. More Bible reading, more prayer attempts, more church involvement, more trying to be consistent. And yet they still feel disconnected. They feel dry in their faith. They feel stagnant. This is not a motivation problem. This is an alignment problem. In other words, your faith isn't stuck. Your method is. And no amount of consistency can fix a method that doesn't fit how God designed you. So in this video, we're going to cover 3 things. Why doing more spiritual activities doesn't automatically lead to closeness with God. How certain faith practices, even good ones, can't actually work with you, but can work against you depending on how you're wired. And third, how to recognize whether your faith feels stuck because of the effort or because of this misalignment. By the end, you won't just feel reassured. You'll have clarity about why this hasn't been working and what kind of rhythm and practices you actually need. Hey there, wise woman. This is Deneen TB, your faith growth and work alignment strategist, helping driven Christian women professionals and business owners design a faith that grows their own rhythms and practices that actually fit their lives without the pressure of doing more, that can really lead them in their purpose, live out their mission, and create lasting influence for God in your work and in your life. So let's get into this. First, I want to say effort isn't the same as alignment. Here's the mistake most Christian women make without even realizing it. They assume that as long as I have more effort, that automatically equals more closeness and connection with God. So when something isn't working, they double down. And maybe you've done this too, by saying things to themselves like, you know what, I just need to wake up earlier, or I need to be more disciplined, or I need to stop falling off my plan. But spiritual growth, it doesn't work like physical training. You can be incredibly sincere, but still be using a method that works against how God designed you. So let's talk about why doing all the right things can still feel wrong. So let's get specific here. Some spiritual activities are good, but they're not all universally effective for every person. Here are a few common mismatches that I see all the time. First, that early morning quiet time. This often fails for a woman who think best after engaging with life a little bit, or need movement or conversation to process, or feel foggy or pressured first thing in the morning. They don't feel holy, so therefore they feel rushed and guilty and inadequate before 8 a.m. Maybe that describes you. Another activity is the long, unstructured prayer time. This frequently will not work for women who actually process externally or who need prompts, some kind of structure, some kind of languaging to go along with their prayer time, or who struggle to sit without any kind of direction. Instead of feeling connected, they feel distracted and frustrated and assume that something must be spiritually wrong with them. Have I just described you? Let me know. And then there's those inductive Bible study plans. These can feel exhausting for women who connect more emotionally and creatively, or those who prefer a big picture meaning over those details, or that don't thrive in that academic style of learning. They are strong. Then they start off that way, but then they do that quiet quitting and they carry that shame with them. Then there's the activity, the practice of journaling every day. This doesn't serve women who process through their actions or think spatially or kinesthetically, and that don't connect through the written reflection. Yet journaling is often presented as the marker of spiritual maturity. Now, none of these practices are wrong. They're good practices, but forcing yourself into someone else's spiritual method will eventually stall your own growth. And here's the real reason your faith feels stuck. It's because you're copying a method that worked for someone else. You're measuring the growth by consistency instead of this connection with God. And you're trying to conform instead of align. Most Christian women were never taught to ask these things, to ask, how did God design me to connect to Him? Instead of that, we're taught to ask, how do I do this correctly? And those are two very different questions. This misalignment becomes even more obvious when you add things like a demanding work schedule, leadership responsibilities, caregiving, and just the pressure to hold it all together. Your faith practices, they really don't exist in a vacuum. They either integrate into your real life or they end up collapsing underneath of it. That's why women who are that high capacity, thoughtful, and committed, what often happens, they feel frustrated. They're trying to grow spiritually using the tools that were never really designed for their wiring or for the season of life that they are in. At the same point, growth stops really being about trying harder, and it starts being about choosing practices that actually fit. So did you hear me? I don't want you to try harder. I want you to find the way that is right for you. And this is where most women finally experience relief, not because they found some kind of magic pill or a shortcut, but because they found alignment. And this is where I introduce something many women have never been shown before. There are distinct ways God designed people to connect to Him, to grow with Him, and to mature spiritually with Him. And when you work with that design, growth becomes sustainable. No more up and down. Sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm not. I call this discovering your faith shape. Your faith shape helps you to see why certain practices have never worked for you, why you can't get them to work and stick with them, why consistency does feel so hard, even when your desire is real, and what kind of spiritual rhythm actually supports growth in the life that you have with all of its responsibilities and busyness. If you want to begin to uncover yours, I've created a simple starting point in my Faith Shape quiz. I have it down in the description if you want to take it, if you haven't taken it already. What it does is it really helps you identify how you are primarily wired to grow spiritually so that you can, stop guessing and really start choosing practices that align with you. Once you see your faith shape, the frustration you've been carrying finally has context. You go from trying harder to actually growing and moving forward. And once you understand that your faith isn't stuck, that your method is what is stuck, everything changes. Instead of asking, how do I stay consistent? You begin asking better questions like, which practices actually support how God designed me? And what rhythms fit my season of life, my responsibilities, my real life? And how do I stop that starting over and just start growing and moving forward? This is the shift most women will never make. They just keep adjusting their efforts when what they really need is clarity. Clarity doesn't come from trying some random practices until something sticks. It comes from understanding how you're wired to process spiritually, why certain activities drain you instead of drawing you closer to God, and how to build rhythms that integrate your work, your leadership, and your daily life. That's the work that I walk women through step by step. Not by giving you another checklist, but by helping you to identify what actually fits so that your faith can grow in steadiness instead of strain. Now, if you're ready to stop guessing and to start growing with intention, I'll guide you through this process in my next free virtual workshop event. Why your faith feels stuck and how to grow in a way that actually fits your life. So together, we'll uncover why your current approach has felt frustrating. We'll look at clarity for the type of rhythm that will really support your design, those practices that are truly meant for you. And we'll give you a map to have a path, have a direction to move forward that feels realistic, that feels sustainable, and of course, life-giving, not life-draining. You don't need more pressure. I don't want to give it to you. You just need a clearer path. So let me know in the comments, which spiritual practice have you tried that never quite worked for you, no matter how hard you tried? I'd love to see you at my next free virtual workshop event. You can see that link in the description and answer me this question in the comments. This is Deneen TV. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, be filled to overflowing.